Welcome to the bold analysis and happy 60th birthday to our beautiful country called Kenya. And I decided to heed the call by the government that we can wear, you can rock the jersey, any jersey that is of Kenyan, so that you also show that patriotism. I decided to do that. That's why I'm also in culture and it's a midway. And of course, it's a holiday. Now, as the country celebrates the 60th birthday, I have seen the glamour in Uhuru Gardens when the president is leading the Jamhuri Day celebrations. Ladies and gentlemen, the best that William Samoei Ruto can do for this country as we mark our 60th birthday is to ensure that he picks a big broom and sweeps everyone in the energy sector. I've just been seeing a disturbing report from this is Standard, yes, from the Standard. The disturbing report about dozens of patients that lost lives in ICU on Sunday night due to that power outage. Hospitals with ICU beds that did not have automatic generators, automatic backup generators, really patients died. And I'm picking that because I have seen the prolonged power blackouts. The headline was narrowed down to JKIA. Even myself, even me, I could not work on Sundays. I wanted to start working Sunday evening. I normally start at 6. I could not work because at 7:30, power went off when I was shooting. And many Kenyans, those who are in different places of work, they could not work because power went off. The entertainment joints that did not have backup generators closed on the very night. And in this podcast, I have gone beyond the headline. I've also tried to speak with an engineer with work who worked with Kenya Power, who gave me a very interesting picture on what exactly the devil is looking like in this energy sector. And to make you get the understanding, I wanted to get the reactions from the two cabinet secretaries, one from Murkomen and Chirchir. Let's start with the Energy CS. Chirchir is accustomed to technical explanations on what went wrong, using statements and words that only engineers can relate with. And this is something I'm saying is accustomed with too, because he's been doing it. This is not the first time we're having a power outage. In fact, this was not even the longest. Sometime in August, we had 20 hours power outage. And the explanation has been one aspect about transmission. And so, this is what Chirchir was telling the country yesterday as the main cause of that transmission.
We are unable to transmit because of the constraint or the capacity of the line. So those are the kind of, so to then answer your question, the load shedding we are talking about is pockets of load shedding where the overloads are happening. So to a very good extent, the load shedding impacts very heavily on that line of Chemosit Moroni or Moroni Chemosit. And the kind of load shedding we'll be talking about is if Chemosit with the 6 feeders feels overloaded, we can remove one feeder within Chemosit and have a pocket of a region within that area with the load shedding. And we could then do a cyclic system where we load shed today in Sotik, we load shed tomorrow in Bomet, we load shed the following day in Kigali. So it will be really limited load shedding to address the challenge we have. It's not a good challenge, but it's a better challenge than not having power. We have enough power we are dealing with transmission capacity. And so the load shedding that we will be discussing and possibly giving out a better communication than today, consulting with the leadership of those regions, should be ready by Thursday.
For us to complete the entire master plan of the nation, which we plan to do, we require $5.3 billion to complete the entire master plan. What do we have this year? We have about $250 million, in which we are going to implement the Narok-Bomet link to complete now what we call Olkaria, Narok, Bomet to Sotik all the way. Then we are also going to do Rumuruti, Kabarnet to Rumuruti, and then we are also going to do Malindi, Weru, Kilifi. Those three will require $250 million, which we have already acquired from AFDB and World Bank.
Now, as I earlier mentioned, these explanations look opaque, and of course to me, they're exposing themselves, because I want you to listen to another video. In August, when we had a power blackout, the Senate summoned the fellows in the energy sector, and they summoned Chirchir, Ketrako, Kenya Power, and all those stakeholders in the energy sector. And the question of they have all explained that the problem is about transmission. And when they were asked the question, I remember Engineer Singor explaining more about this issue of offloading, of shedding.
If you are dealing with a transmission line, Chairman, what the two main protection schemes that are used is what is called distance protection and also at times differential. A distance protection looks at if this line is loaded to full capacity, what level of current is expected to be flowing. Because if there is a short, the level of current or the quantum is going to be much higher than would be the case if it's just carrying normal load. And in so doing, of course, it will calculate the impedance per kilometer and even possibly even tell you the approximate distance if there is a short or if there is an earth fault and all that. Now, the two key things which are monitored by NS system, Chairman, is the voltage and frequency. Of course, there is overcurrent. If the current is too high, then it trips. But the two things that the NS system will always monitor is the voltage and the frequency. The frequency in Kenya is meant to be 50 hertz. Now, depending on the transmission or the distribution voltage, if it's a 220 kV substation, it's going to look at whether it's around 220 for the voltage, but the frequency will always be monitored. Now, there are set limits where if the frequency drops, then it determines the level of load shedding to implement. Now, if the frequency drops too much, and that means you've lost a very big generation or a very big load, what then happens would be a change in frequency that is too high that cannot be mitigated by load shedding. And you would realize that the CS did mention that the system lost 190 megawatts in 150 milliseconds.
So, there is one thing I want you to get, and that is what the ex-KPLC engineer was telling me, that our problem is not on transmission, and I will explain that, we'll get to understand. Our problem is not on generation. Our problem is transmission. And it boils down on one thing, and there is a big question that needs to be asked, just in respect to this explanation. In August, there was a point of, we normally have this overload, but they were putting measures to ensure that they can offload when the power lines are overloaded. Now, today or yesterday, after that one on Sunday, the explanation on Monday was that we did not shed. So what that engineer was telling me is that if these fellows had already ascertained that the problem is overloading, and they realized if this is the same problem that caused power outage in October, in August, then what do you think, where do you think it could not be corrected to avert such a fallout, such a blackout like this? And if you read the statement from Chirchir, I just want to get you The first statement in it, sequence of events leading to the outage. At 7:30 p.m., the Kisumu-Moroni 132 kV power line tripped arising from system constraints due to a sudden energy demand increase. Now, that engineer is asking, that sudden energy demand increase is a bit suspicious because what causes it is power clogging. Earlier, there is some company that abruptly maybe, there's some default somewhere. But if it is from a company or is a household or it's a town, the line has shocks and absorbers to ensure that it can cushion both the consumer and that transmitter from those shocks. So from his point of view, is that this is a situation that could be arrested. And I tried to ask, so what about the sabotage narrative? Because Murkomen on other end has even written a letter to the police asking them to go and investigate. Why is it that despite of government investing in generators, some terminal A and C in airport could not get light or are still in darkness, even though the airport is fixed with generators that should pick up automatic? It picked up, but there are some 2 places that are still not working. And he has written a letter, and I want to say this. I support the understanding that there could be some sabotage. And if that sabotage is happening, then it's happening within. It is not about an outsider. I saw some Kenyans making a joke, or they will start saying Uhuru Kenyatta. Let's keep outsiders from this. This is about internal wrangles. You cannot underestimate the way Chirchir is hitting. He's hitting Murkomen below the belt just because of this power outage. You can see the way Nani comes out passionately. The way Chirchir comes out passionately. I don't think that Chirchir is not just a man of his own. He's a man on a mission, and that mission is well known by those working around him. Now, so I want us to look at this, pole, so that you get to understand. Look at, on trying to debunk, or rather trying to probe on the sabotage narrative. You narrow down to these power supply chain actors. Number 1, Kenya Power and Lighting Company, they are responsible for the distribution of electricity to consumers. So I've seen some people blushing Kenya Power and all this, but of course Kenya Power is just getting the worst hit because they're the most known. That is the only one that every Kenyan, even these households, every Kenyan just know Kenya Power. They don't know of other actors. But so you see, number 1, they're just on distribution electricity, and they may account for issues in distribution network or maintenance lapses that could lead to power outages. Look at the other player, Kenya Electricity Transmission Company Limited, KETRACO. Now, oversees the high voltage electricity transmission grid. Any faults or failures in the transmission infrastructure could lead to be contributing factor to widespread blackouts. Ladies and gentlemen, from those 2 clips you've heard, and even from my ex-KPLC engineer is telling me, our problem is not power generation, our problem is transmission. And within this transmission, you're seeing the image of KETRACO. Let's look at the third one. Kenya Electricity Generating Company, KenGen. This is the entity responsible for generating electricity. Then we have Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation, REREC. While they are focused more on rural electrification and renewable projects, any shortcomings in these areas could impact on overall stability and redundancy of our system. So there is a clear vector. Vector is pointing at a transmission, and transmission is one of the responsibilities of the KETRACO. So you see where we might be making all the noise, but there's a problem. And just to show you, at KETRACO, there is a big problem. On 16th November, there was a circular that came from Felix Kosgei, and that circular released names of CEOs that were actually interdicted by Felix Kosgei, and that is the article that is here. Head of Public Service Kosgei orders suspension of 6 CEOs and 67 police officers over corruption. Now, amongst the 6 CEOs that were suspended from work, one is from Ketraco. And you can get that article here. I think I have that excerpt here. Additionally, the EACC has called for the suspension of engineer Anthony Omukota, the general manager of design construction at Kenya Electricity Transmission Company Limited, Ketraco, for alleged procurement irregularities related to the construction of the contract, that's Longeani Power Project. So, you see that there are already some squabbles, there is some instability even in that sector. So that is why I was saying that you cannot, if there is a sabotage, and Ruto must then just do his internal introspecting. Where exactly is the problem? Because there seems to be some instability issues that are causing it. And I insist and I want to repeat. When Uhuru Kenyatta realized that there was a problem at the Ministry of Energy, not Energy, the Ministry of Education, and the problem was about massive exam leakage, he planted one gentleman, Fred Okengo Matiang'i. And in 2015, just within when Matiang'i went there, he swept the whole neck, and exam cheating became a thing of the past. And that is why I support what Cosmo Choi is saying here.
Raisi, rafiki yangu Raisi, Nyambucho mama. Get my message kutoka kwa rafiki yako mkubwa. Mimi Kazmo baby, Kazmo. Msema ukweli kila wakati. Unajua mtukufu Rais, mimi nasemanga ukweli. Mimi nikiwa mzee nimesema mara mingi over 50 years. Tuko hiyo ligi moja. Uko 50s, ligati yako 50s, tuko hapo hapo. My advice to you for free. Tumeona hii shida ya blackouts, stima, more especially in the airport. Our international airport, Jomo Kenyatta. Serikali iko na pesa kuinstall generator kubwa kwa airport. Wakati stima inaenda, kuna shida gani? You are embarrassing us to international communities. Yaani hatujiwezi. Mtukufu Rais, ila kitu namba moja, tuache ukabila. Watu kama wameshindwa kazi, wanalala kazini. Urafiki yako na Morokomen, urafiki yako na Davis Chirchir, uweke kando. Kazi kwanza. Futa Morokomen kazi mara moja. Hata kama ni mtu yako, hatuna ukabila hapa, ameshindwa na kazi. Futa Davis Chirchir. Hata nimeona huyu Davis Chirchir kutoka Bomet, watu kwa ground hawampendi. Futa yeye kazi, tuache ukabila, ndio kazi iendelee. Hivyo ndio naweza sema. Upande ya ministry ya energy, masio wote ni kwa currency. Weka watu, tuache ukabila, weka watu ambao wako qualified kukufanyia kazi. Hiyo ndio naweza sema, bila kuogopa, sababu nakupenda. Tuache ukabila.
William Ruto must look at this, must approach the energy sector with, he must approach the energy sector ruthlessly, and it must be about heads rolling. All these fellows here in this sector is where the problem is. The problem is not about, we've said, it's not about what is to be fixed. They know the solution, they know what's going on, we're just dilly-dallying around the problem. We're just doing some merry-go-round around the problem. And that's why I also take the word from Cosmo Choi. Now, I want to explain in details what exactly this means. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and like our videos. I am seeing 3 issues where William Ruto must take the big broom and sweep that sector. Number 1, the multi-billion tenders could be haunting that sector. Yes, there's some huge tenders, and if you listen to that press briefing that was done yesterday, there's some billion tenders to fix these problems, and the issues about power lines and alternative power production centers and transmission centers and substations. There's some huge tenders that are coming, and just the same way tender fights affected KCPE examination, the way Raila Odinga said, it is the same tenders that are causing this power blackout. And those tenders is the trigger of sabotage. Because maybe I want it, you are giving to person X, so what I need to do is I need to make sure you leave the office. Yes, it is as simple as that. I tend to see that, not that these problems cannot be fixed. You know, I agree with Waziri Chirchir that there is increasing demand in energy. But that increase is gradual. It's not instant that you say that on this one Sunday evening, and that is what my engineer was saying, on that one Sunday evening, there was just a huge demand for energy, for power. You know, it doesn't happen that way. In fact, there is no installation on Sunday. Even if someone was saying we are establishing some huge company that is consuming energy that has increased, and in fact, these homes, the households, doesn't have a huge energy demand. More energy demand goes to the industries. So there is no industry which was established by the said weekend or even by the said Saturday. And that demand, the issue of that demand causing it, the demand is gradual. There must be a trigger, and these are things that could be averted. There is a high possibility that someone is just sleeping on the job. Number 2, Ruto must sweep this sector because he made a big blunder, and the blunder was intentional, by planting all his cronies and friends, the Kale friends in the energy sector. If you look at those names, by then people have seen Kenyans trivializing the way people are given jobs in that energy sector. And it's true. It's Kipto, Chirchir, Kiptum, Kipwat, Kipsang, Kipsingor, Kip that. And that has caused a problem because, you know, these people are seeing like they all have the eye of the president. Number 1. So I'm like, Raisa atafanya nini? You know, I just come out and do an explanation. Sometimes, by the time, actually the XK PLC guy now is not working here. Now he works in Sweden, and was telling me that huko power ikienda off, hey, not in Sweden, in Japan, power ikienda off, government will compensate. It's not a joke, and in fact, the minister in charge can even resign before even the public, before even the president or so, before even the leadership reacts. Even the leader can resign. Here is a situation where someone has messed the whole country for nearly 8 hours. Then the next day he's coming up with the pieces of paper with huge jargons, trying to explain himself and trying to explain a situation. Looking at even how they are even blaming the previous administration, I'm like, if the things that were supposed to be done 6 or 5 years ago, Chirchir was the Ministry of Energy before he was moved out. You know. So are you also blaming Charles Keter? But why aren't these things happening even in the past? And if that is the problem, why just once? Why does it take 2 months, once, then 2 months? It should be explained. So it's causing some laxity and maybe infight amongst these fellows. Number 3, the internal fights are derailing energy sector. Internal fights of this and different interests. And I believe so that William Ruto must actually crack the whip. Take the broom and sweep. That is the best gift you can do for Kenyans. Even if the other cost of living is still a huge problem for you to address, but this one is the one I think you need just to take one move and sweep everywhere. Everyone out. Get in the dream team. The dream team in the energy are not doing the best. I think for me, it's a letdown for Kenyans. Kenyans cannot be losing lives because of this, and actually so many things went down. I know many people that might have lost a lot just because of this. Thank you.